And I thank the gentlelady for yielding, and I'd like to thank Chairman Calvert and Ranking Member McCollum for the work that went into this bill. I know a lot of difficult decisions had to be made given our current fiscal situation, and this bill manages to do some good. I'm pleased with the strong investments made to address the needs across Indian country, for example. We've taken some real steps to bolster Indian health and education, not to mention providing some assistance to tribes facing the very real threat of rising sea levels. Also glad that the committee secured strong investments in the USGS budget for the West Coast Early Earthquake Warning System and the Volcano Hazards Program. These systems are critical to monitoring and detecting seismic and volcanic activity and giving Washingtonians and folks on the entire West Coast a few crucial seconds to get out of harm's way. The bill we're debating today makes some real progress in these areas, but unfortunately it doesn't measure up in others, particularly when it comes to investing in the environment. This legislation is supposed to provide critical funding for our most treasured natural resources, and it fails to live up to what the folks we represent demand. For one thing, the funding is inadequate. Among the agencies hardest hit is the Environmental Protection Agency, whose budget was cut by more than $164 million, and judging by the list of amendments we'll be considering, I expect it will lose even more. That doesn't leave enough for the agency to do what it does best, like clean up polluted sites and protect our natural treasures like Puget Sound and make progress on fighting climate change. Not to mention we don't provide any new funds to communities like Flint that are struggling to provide clean and safe water for their citizens. Unfortunately, a number of important priorities for states like mine are left on the chopping block in the current bill. In Pacific Northwest, for example, Puget Sound is a gift, an iconic body of water that benefits our entire nation. And we have a plan in place to meet important restoration goals for it, but funds for the Puget Sound Geographic Program and the National Estuary Program are not where they should be. These funds provide essential resources to empower federal, state, local, and tribal agencies to mount a coordinated strategy to recover this iconic resource that is an economic driver for our region. This really matters. It matters to tribes who've lived on the Sound since time immemorial. It matters to the overall health and viability of our waterways and the livelihoods that depend on them. We are passionate about the outdoors in Washington State, and that's why I'm also disappointed to see this bill made serious cuts in the Land and Water Conservation Fund. In fact, it chops the funding 30% from last year. And if we approve this approach, many shovel-ready projects will be forever lost. That's a shame, because the Land and Water Conservation Fund is a key tool that builds public-private partnerships and ensures real on-the-ground work gets done. It's what we call a win-win. It's a vital tool for communities to invest in assets for local residents and for tourists who can enjoy our natural treasures and then spend some money at our local shops and restaurants. We've seen hundreds of projects in Washington State as a result of this critical program, and that's why local leaders from across my state and others have been advocates for a permanent reauthorization of this important program. They recognize how valuable the Land and Water Conservation Fund is, not only for our environment and to recreation, but also to our ability to attract tourists and bolster our economy. For all these reasons, as well as those highlighted by Ranking Member McCollum and others, I will not be able to support this legislation. But again, I appreciate the hard work on it, and I yield.